Movie buffs, welcome back to the Movie Bay. This is D. In today's video, let me fix my collar. In today's video, we are going to look at some of my favorite movies. Now, in my collection, I would say almost all of my movies. Not, well, 60%, 75% of my movies are my favorite movies. I only buy movies that I like. Now, don't get me wrong, I got some duds in my collection for sure. And I just picked up a dud on one of my last pickups, and I'm going to actually do a video review on that one and tell you to avoid it like the plague. But neither here nor there. For the most part, a lot of the movies that I have in my collection are my favorite movies. I like all of them for the most part. But I'm going to show you two nice size stacks of movies in my collection that is right up there in my top. Probably not all of these are my top. I got way more, but these are some ones that I just kind of pulled down that I think are very, very special films in my opinion. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of my favorite movies. This is a mix of all genres. We're just going to start this off with Aliens. Alien and Aliens. So that's 1 and 2. That's how they did it. It was Alien and Aliens with an S for the second one. Is two of my favorite movies of all times. Particularly 2. Aliens is probably definitely out of the Alien series. Out of this series of films, this is the quadrilogy. This has the first 4 films. I'm going to go ahead and say that Aliens is one of my favorite films of all times. Next up, another one of my favorite films of all time is In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier and Ron Steger. This movie actually spawned a hit TV show that ran for, if I'm not mistaken, 11 seasons, which is phenomenal. Howard Rollins was Virgil Tibbs in the TV show, and Carol O'Connor was Chief Gillespie in the TV show. In the Heat of the Night is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, for me to come up with a hard list of my favorite movies of all times would be almost impossible. I love movies that much. And it would change a lot. I'll probably end up doing one of these for you guys every 6 months or every year, because as I add movies into my collection, they could knock a movie off. That makes sense? Okay. Fast 5. Now I have all 8 of the Fast and Furious films. This one is probably my favorite out of the whole series. I like them all, don't get me wrong. I like them all, even Tokyo Drift. A lot of people didn't care too much for Tokyo Drift. I actually like that one. But I think this one, it was just... Now, when you think about Fast and Furious, all of the car scenes, for the most part, is over the top. But in this one, the whole police station thing, dragging the vaults down the road, the big bank vaults with the Chargers. I mean, was it not Chargers? They was Challengers. Or was it Chargers? It was the 2 Dodges. That was just phenomenal. I never seen anything like that. It was awesome. And this is the one where they basically got paid. So I really enjoyed Fast 5. Heat. This is probably, definitely, if I was to do a list of my favorite films of all times, and I was to do like a top 25, I need more than a top 10. And I'll probably do that. This would probably be in the top 5 of my favorite films of all times. This is definitely up there. Heat is just one of those movies where it's just done right. Everything is just done right. I have not one complaint about this movie. And that's rare for me, because I always find something that I don't like, even in a movie that I love. But this movie, I have no complaints. Now, this is part of a trilogy. I have all 3. John Wick. Now, this is the original, and I think this is the best one because this is the one that introduced the character. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I know about me. I know I definitely want to see the impossible job that Vigo sent them on that he discussed in this movie. I want to know who was the bodies that John laid in the dirt that day that laid the foundation for who they are today. I want to see that impossible job. I want to see the John Wick prequel. I don't know about you guys, but I know they're going to continue on with this franchise because it's a moneymaker. Parabellum was all that. But I just want to see a prequel before they go on with John Wick 4. Come on, guys. Give us a prequel. We want to see how John is introduced to Vigo. We want to see that impossible job. We want to see how he met his wife. Come on, guys. You're leaving too much up. It's too much guesswork. We want to see it. But this is one of my top films. And for me, even though Parabellum was crazy, this is the best one in the John Wick series to me. The Book of Eli. This is a movie that I liked. And the reason why I like The Book of Eli, it's a very different type of movie. It's a guy who's on a mission from God to deliver a Bible to I think it's like a sacred place. And the mission, the things that he encountered along the way it's a long road. It's a long and dangerous path to his final rest and to deliver this Bible. And everything he goes through in between is just phenomenal. And to realize at the end of the movie that this man was blind, you got little hints throughout the movie, but you just was never sure. But to have it confirmed that this guy went through all that and he was blind, you really know that God was with him. So this is The Book of Eli. Just on the uniqueness of the story alone, this is one of my favorite films. Sucker Punch. Now, there's a lot of reasons why I like this film. The acting was great. And I don't really... Now, again, I don't mind movies with female leads. I don't. But this one just... Before I actually saw it, I saw the cover. It just screamed chick flick. But I watched it. I was in... where did I buy this movie from? It was back in the day. I had it on DVD. I think it was like a Walmart. And I used to buy... This was back when I used to buy new movies. And I just bought it because it looked interesting. Even though I thought it was a possible chick flick, I just took it home, watched it, and man, was I blown away. Now, I didn't get it the first time. I had to watch it again. The story is incredible. The acting is incredible. The score, the music. The guy who scored it, or the gal who scored, I don't know who scored it, but whoever scored this movie, man, this movie got some banging music to it. Check out Sucker Punch. The acting is on point. The story is banging. And the soundtrack is like, check this one out, guys. This is definitely in my top movies. Again, like I said, if this was like a top 25 list, this would definitely be in the list. A little lower in the list, but it would still be in the list. Oops. Christine. Now, for me, I'm not sure why this particular type of movie, we never saw more of these. Now, there was one before Christine called The Car. That was okay for the time, but Christine was way better. Way better. Christine was off the hook. I mean, for when this movie came out, the effects they used to when she would fix herself and all of that, this movie was good, guys. Good story, good effects for the time, great effects for the time. It was just a phenomenal film, and the Blu-ray transfer on this one is really good. So if you don't have this and you're going to get it, do yourself a favor, pick up the Blu-ray. It's reasonably priced. This definitely make it in one of my top movies of all times. This will make my top 25 for sure. All right, hold on, guys. Stack fell over. Let me just reshuffle these. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Next up is Law Abiding Citizen. You got Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx opposites, along with some other pretty good actors. This is about Gerard Butler's family was brutally killed in front of him. Jamie Foxx was the DA, and he didn't put up a good enough fight. He thought he was going to lose the case if he had pushed harder. He may have, he may not have, but I think Gerard Butler's character didn't care if he would have lost the case as long as he gave it everything he had. I think Gerard Butler's character wanted to see somebody push for justice. And I think if he would have pushed hard and he would have lost, I think he would have been okay with that. But he didn't push hard, and man, did it set this guy off. Law Abiding Citizens is definitely one of my favorite films. I'm not sure if it would make a top 25 list. It might, but it's definitely one of my favorites. Now, this would definitely make a top 25 list. This would even probably crack my top 10. Harlem Nights, you look, Red Fox, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Della Reese, Jasmine Guy, Danny Aiello. The list goes on and on and on. The talent in this is just sickening. I mean, I don't know how they was able to pay all these people and still make money on this movie, because they had some heavy hitters in this. Funny, just this is a classic. I mean, really, this is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. And I had this particular DVD for a long time. This has been in my collection since I first started collecting DVDs, when DVD players came out. Now, real quick, the video that I put out earlier of my top organized crime films, this was in a different stack. It should have been in that video. So honorable mention to Hoodlum for the true crime video that I did earlier. This movie is definitely a true crime movie. This is the story of Bumpy Johnson, Dutch Schultz, and Lucky Luciano, and many others. Now, I don't know how historically accurate it is as far as Bumpy Johnson go. I know a lot of the critics, they kind of came at the movie a little bit, but that aside, the movie was awesome. Look at the cast. It was so good. This movie was entertaining as all hell. I mean, Tim Roth, as Dutch Schultz, man, this guy, him and Fishburne on the screen together, man, guys, look, if you haven't seen Hoodlum, check this one out. For real, check this one out. This is definitely in my top rotation. I'm not sure where this one would land, but this would probably end up cracking like my top 10, top 15, probably. But it would, if I was to do a hard 25 list, this would make it for sure. Django Unchained. Man, I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this one. Jamie Foxx. Let's see. Who's this? Jamie Foxx, Christopher Waltz, that's the name. I always forget his name. Leonardo DiCaprio, Kerry Washington, Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, that Christopher Waltz dude, man, he did it in this. Everybody played their part in this movie. It's a Tarantino flick. You're going to see some familiar faces in it. Man, this movie right here, guys, this is, man, I'm going to do a Western video for y'all. And this is definitely going to be in there for sure. This is definitely one of my top movies. This will go in my 25 list. If I was to put out, in fact, I'm thinking about a 25 list, but this will go in there. This is one of my favorite films, period. I know what you're thinking. Wow, every movie you showed would make a top 25. Well, these are some of my top movies. So that's why it's hard for me to come up with a hard list, because I got so many movies that I like. I'm a movie guy. What can I say? Here's another one. The Game. Now, this is Sean Penn and Michael Douglas. And who else is in here? What's her name? Guys, I forgot her name. Michael Douglas there. Okay. So we're just going to leave it at Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. This is a thriller like no other. You got to see this one to believe it. It's about two brothers. One's a working stiff, hard-ass corporate greed type of guy, and his brother's more relaxed. And he put his brother through this game. You just got to see it. I can't even describe it. This is definitely one of my top thrillers. If I was to do a list of my top thrillers, this would probably be in the top 5 of the best thrillers that I have in my collection. And that's probably the way I would have to do it. I don't know if I could come up with one list of all my favorite movies. I would have to break it down by genre to give you guys a real snapshot of what my favorite films are. Believe it or not, guys, Room 1408 is one of my favorite movies. I can watch this movie all the time. Samuel L. Jackson is opposite of John Cusack. John Cusack is one of my favorite actors. He's not like high up for his favorite actors, but he's definitely one of my favorites. I'm pleasantly surprised by a lot of his work. I don't think he gets as much shine as he deserves for the caliber of talent that he is, but if you've seen this movie, you would know it's suspenseful, it's scary, it's thrilling, it's chilling. This movie right here is off the hook. If you have not seen Room 1408, which I think mostly everybody's seen it at this point, but if you haven't, you got to check this one out. Now, you guys, I think this was in a movie night's pick or something like that. A couple of those was probably in a movie night pick, but this here is definitely my favorite zombie movie of all time. And I would take it a step further and say, and I said it before, this is probably the definitive zombie movie. This is the holy grail of zombie movies. I don't think there's a zombie movie out better than this. Just like The Walking Dead is the holy grail of zombie TV shows. Fantastic. Let's see, you got Mekhi Phifer, Ving Rhames. Those are the two big names that really stand out for me in this. You got to check this movie out. It's one of my top movies. Back to John Cusack again. Ray Liotta, Amanda Peet, Identity. Now, this is a thriller. Again, this is another John Cusack film. The plot line on this one is insane. The acting is crazy. The story, the end of this will blow your socks clean off. I'm not even going to give you none of this one because this one is just too damn good. Watch this one. Watch it all the way to the end. The end is going to rock your socks if you've never seen it. This is definitely one of my top films. Not sure where it would land, but this is definitely one of my tops. Here's one that will definitely crack, as far as movies go for me. This will crack top 10. The Hateful Eight. Samuel L. Jackson again. I mean, you got a lot of the usual suspects when it comes to Tarantino flicks, and you got a couple of new ones like Channing Tatum is in this one. Who's a newcomer? Let's see. Channing Tatum is a newcomer. I don't know a lot of the actors by name in this film, but I can look at the cover here and just say Kurt Russell. He's a newcomer to the Tarantino family. Who else here that I know, that I recognize? Tim Roth is he's not a new guy. Michael Madsen is definitely not new. Bruce Dern, he might be new, but just look at the cast. Fantastic film. It's funny. It's serious. I mean, this is one of my favorite Tarantino. This is my favorite Tarantino film. I have to take that back. Let me back this up. This and Django, they fight for 1 and 2. Depending on the mood I'm in, it's going to be either this or Django. It's going to be my number 1 Tarantino film. And this has definitely cracked my top 10. I love this movie. I can watch it all day, every day. I was going to do just the Dark Knight in this Batman trilogy. This is the entire trilogy. But my favorite out of this trilogy is definitely the Dark Knight. I liked all 3 of them, definitely. But the Dark Knight is definitely the standout from this trilogy. And the Dark Knight is definitely one of my favorite movies of all times. It's my favorite Batman movie of all times, full stop. This is definitely, I can't say it's in my top 10 because I think the top 10 is full. This is in the top 25 for sure. I'm not, again, guys, that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to make these lists because it's so many good movies that I have that I would say is in the top 10. And I just like, wait a minute. I said top 10 like 40 movies ago. But you get the point. This is one of my favorite movies. This trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies. I have quite a few trilogies. And as far as trilogies go, this is probably my favorite trilogy. This is this knocked off the Blade trilogy for sure. Now, for here, Terminator 1 and 2. This is the Terminator anthology. And definitely Terminator 2 is my favorite, followed by Terminator 1. This is definitely, Terminator 2 is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time, full stop. The effects for the time, everything about it, that T-1000, everything about this movie was phenomenal. What can I say? It's Terminator 2. Everybody loves Terminator 2. It broke box office records. Next up, we only got 2 left, guys. Now, for the one here, I'm going to just say the whole Star Trek continuity, as far as all the movies go. We got the original and the Next Generation continuity here. This is the Stardate collection. And here we have the Kelvin timeline. Now, I love both of these almost equally. But I got to say, I'm going to pick a favorite from each continuity or timeline, if you would. From the original timeline, I'm going to have... So from the original timeline, my favorite is going to be Undiscovered Country. That is my #1 pick from the original timeline. From the Next Generation timeline, it's going to be First Contact. That's with Picard. So I'll break it down. The original is Captain Kirk. My favorite from that one is Undiscovered Country. From the second, from the Next Generation timeline, which is Captain Picard, is going to be First Contact. Now, it was only 3 movies for that timeline versus 7 for the first timeline. Was it 7? Yes. Yes, it was 7. This is the Kelvin timeline, which is the J.J. Abrams films. And I liked all 3 of them. But for me, it's going to be a toss-up between the first one and Into Darkness. Now, a lot of people thought Beyond was better than Into Darkness. Now, don't get me wrong. Beyond was good, but it was something about Into Darkness that I liked better. I liked it better than Beyond. However, I'm going to say that Beyond felt more like a traditional Star Trek film than Into Darkness. Maybe that's what I liked about Into Darkness. It was a little bit different. And you got to love Star Trek 08 because that was more of an origin story for Kirk. It gave Kirk's backstory, which is why I love that film so much. Excuse me, guys. Got just a touch of heartburn. I'm going to push on. So, I like both of these sets the same. I liked all of the Star Trek movies, but my favorites, again, is Undiscovered Country, First Contact, and then over here is going to be, I'm going to have to give it to the first one in the series, Star Trek 08. So, guys, that's it. That's some of my favorite movies in my collection. This is part 1. I'll probably do a part 2 in a few months as I add movies. I'm always constantly just buying movies that I always wanted, movies that I've seen that I never had in my collection. So we'll come back and visit this topic again. Right now, it's just some of my favorite movies that's in my collection. One day, when I get this collection somewhat organized a little bit better, we're going to do a full collection tour, and I'll show you every movie that's in my collection, but that's going to take some time, and I got to get everything organized to make the video, try to keep it at about an hour and some change. So when that come up, get your popcorn, get your drinks ready. We going in. This is D. Thanks for supporting the channel. I appreciate you coming by, watching the content. Without your support, there is no Movie Bay. Thank you.